Welcome to the GSMC Business News Podcast, the show dedicated to keeping you up to date on all things concerning business, technology, and the stock market. Get a head start on the day as we keep you updated on the latest goings-on Wall Street, money, jobs, and technology. If you're looking for a podcast to keep you informed and ahead of the game in business, the GSMC Business News Podcast has you covered. Hello and welcome to the GSMC Business News Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Sarah, and I'm happy to be with you on this Tuesday. I hope that you are doing well and staying safe and staying home. If you are a non-essential worker, helping to flatten the curve. If you are an essential worker, a huge thank you to you for helping to make it possible for the rest of us to stay at home. So we've got several stories today, pretty much all related to the coronavirus. I'm not sure that there are stories out there right now that are not related to the coronavirus. That's just the nature of our world. It is the new normal, if you will. So I don't even think if you will. It just is the new normal. We're going to start with grocery store workers and the concerns that they are having, understandable concerns. In recent weeks, according to an article on CNBC, tensions are on the rise between grocery workers and their employers, spurring many to take public action. Employees at Amazon-owned Whole Foods planned a sick out on Tuesday. And if you're curious about what a sick out is, I mean, it's pretty much what you would expect it to be. Hashtag global sick out, hashtag March 31st. That would be today. Hashtag retail March madness. As this situation has progressed, our fundamental needs as workers have become more urgent. COVID-19 poses a very real threat to our safety of our workforce and our customers. We cannot wait for politicians, institutions, or our own management to step in and protect us. This is on coworker.com. 11,398 people have signed the petition out of the required 15,000 signatures. It goes on to say, we call on Whole Foods Market employees to engage in a mass sick out on March 31st. We will be staging this sick out earlier than initially planned. Whole Foods employees are already getting sick. We must act now. On March 31st, do not go to work. Whole Foods has temporarily relaxed its strict attendance policy, which means that team members can participate in this act of protest without fear or of reprisal. We encourage all retail workers at other companies to join us in this act of solidarity. We call upon Amazon to allocate the necessary resources for us to do our jobs safely. We need guaranteed paid leave for all workers who isolate or self-quarantine instead of coming to work. Reinstatement of healthcare coverage for part-time and seasonal workers, increased FSA funds to cover coronavirus testing and treatment for all team members, including part-time and seasonal, guaranteed hazard pay in the form of double pay during our scheduled hours, implementation of new policies that can facilitate social distancing between workers and customers, commitment to ensuring that all locations have adequate sanitation equipment and procedures in place, immediate shutdown of any location where a worker tests positive for COVID-19. In such an event, all workers should continue to receive full pay until the store can safely reopen. That is pretty much that's it in a nutshell. The explanation continues, and you can check that out for yourself. As I said, it's on coworker.org, and it is a petition if you are interested in signing that. So that was planned for today. Some drivers who deliver Whole Foods groceries are calling for more protections as well, and thousands of people have, as I said, signed that online petition, which is circulated by Trader Joe's employees. On Monday, some Instacart workers held a nationwide strike, and a major grocery union, United Food and Commercial Workers Union, is advocating for workers to have access to coronavirus testing and protective gear. On a personal note, my brother works at a grocery store in a very small town in Montana. My hometown is about 1,000 people. They have been working so hard to comply with all of the safety measures that need to be taken. They have closed on certain days. You're only allowed to do drive up orders. They have limited the number of people allowed in the store at any given time. They have set aside hours for elderly and at-risk people to shop without the general public. And I know that my brother is exhausted. My mom said today he just looked exhausted. And, you might be thinking, well, it's not that big of a deal. It is that big of a deal. These are real people that are being affected. So back to the story, while some of these labor actions failed to draw large-scale support, workers on the front lines of grocery business still expressed concerns in interviews with CNBC. They said they continue to feel underpaid and ill-equipped to confront the dangers that they face. Although nearly 3/4 of the U.S. population is under some sort of lockdown order, grocery employees are among the essential workers who are leaving their homes each day to stock shelves with products, staff cash registers at stores, or pick up orders at warehouses and deliver them to shoppers' doorsteps. They have joined police officers, paramedics, nurses, and doctors on the front lines of the pandemic. Unlike other first responders, though, they lack many key benefits. They are often low-wage workers with little or no protective gear, and in some cases, no health insurance or paid time off. And their employers have less experience handling health care crises. Mark Perroni, who is the president of United Food and Commercial Workers Union, acknowledged grocery chains like Ahold Delhaize's, Stop and Shop, have raised wages, and retailers like Walmart have offered special bonuses. But he said he doesn't think these measures go far enough, as grocers have seen a huge surge in sales, while hourly workers, by going to work each day, potentially expose themselves to a virus that can be deadly. If you're looking at a bonus like Walmart offered at $300, is that worth somebody's life? He said. Nearly every week, grocers large and small have announced new protocols intended to keep customers and employees safe as the number of coronavirus cases climbs. They've adopted a growing list of strategies: reduced store hours to allow for more cleaning, special hours for seniors and vulnerable customers, extra hand sanitizer and hand washing breaks, plexiglass screens between customers and cashiers, and floor decals to remind customers to stay 6 feet apart. I'm thinking about my own grocery store. The last time I went, I did see the decals to help with staying 6 feet apart. I did not see any plexiglass. That I'm sure that's not at every store. The people. I don't know. It's very complicated, and I do worry for the people who are out there helping us to stay safe. Some have announced temporary pay increases and benefits for employees. Whole Foods raised pay by $2 an hour for hourly employees, and Amazon raised pay by $2 per hour for warehouse and delivery workers in the U.S. through April. Instacart added a bonus for contractors who gather customer orders and adjusted its default tip setting in its app in an attempt to boost their pay. On Tuesday, Walmart detailed the latest steps it's taking to lower risks. It will start taking temperatures of all employees when they report to work. Walmart's Executive Vice President of Corporate Affairs, Dan Bartlett, said. The company will also provide gloves and masks that employees can wear if they choose. He said employee feedback inspired these latest changes. And despite the worries grocery workers expressed, the companies have been able to fill job openings posted to meet swelling demand at a pace of nearly 5,000 a day in Walmart's case. The coronavirus has shuttered so many businesses, from clothing stores to fine dining restaurants, nail salons to dentist offices. Amid the numerous furloughs and layoffs, workers are, of course, looking for a steady paycheck. Walmart said it has already made nearly 50,000 new hires after pledging to add 150,000 people to its payrolls. It also announced it would pay a $300 bonus to full-time employees and $150 to part-time employees, in addition to accelerating its quarterly bonus. Bartlett said a higher number of Walmart employees are calling in to take off from work, but that it's, quote, still a manageable level. So that is what's going on in the grocery world. And these, as I said, are unprecedented times. I don't know, maybe they are precedented, but they feel unprecedented. And workers are understandably concerned, and employers often are sympathetic to that. Maybe some of them aren't, but everyone's just trying to feel their way through this pandemic and figure out what is best for everyone involved. So support your essential, support the people who are considered essential, and be nice when you go to the grocery store, please. Don't go and yell at the employees. It's not their fault. The coronavirus is not their fault. They are dealing with a situation the best that they can. We're going to go ahead and take a quick break. When we come back, we'll be talking about how auto sales are doing in this time of COVID-19. Stay tuned. You're listening to the GSMC Business News Podcast, and I'll be right back. Are you looking for a podcast that gives you all of the latest news from the world of finance? Then check out the GSMC Financial News Podcast. We'll delve into the ups and downs of the stock market, changes in the economy, and news from the world of real estate and technology. From breaking news on the New York Stock Exchange, NASDAQ, or the overseas market, to updates on the bond market, if there's money to be made, we'll cover it on the GSMC Financial News Podcast. Welcome back to the GSMC Business News Podcast. Before the break, I was talking about the effect that COVID-19 is having on grocery stores and grocery store employees. And now we are turning from grocery stores to the auto industry, which is expected to basically be crippled by this coronavirus and COVID-19. Automakers are offering 0% financing, deferred payments, and online tools in an attempt to salvage sales as the coronavirus pandemic cripples the auto industry. As a result of skyrocketing jobless claims, weakening consumer confidence, and state orders for residents to stay at home, and non-essential businesses such as dealer showrooms to close, automakers this week are expected to report their worst sales declines in years. According to Tyson Jomini, Vice President of Data and Analytics at J.D. Power, markets with significant virus activity and stay-at-home legislations should be expected to experience declines of 80% or more after those restrictions go into effect. As of yesterday, 35 states had enacted stay-at-home or essential business mandates that affect 231 million people, or 70% of the U.S. population. So that's a little more specific than the 3/4 that we saw in that last article. Many states are allowing dealer service departments to operate, but not sales and showrooms. On another personal side note, my niece was shaking her head today because both of her parents are considered essential workers. Her dad is my brother, the one that works at the grocery store. Her mom does work in the accounting department at an auto dealership that also has what am I trying to say? Also has a service department. Geez, wow, I speak English, really. And so she was just kind of shaking her head that suddenly both of her parents were essential. She's still a teenager. We can understand where that attitude is coming. Back to the business news. J.D. Power expects auto sales to decline at least 32% in March compared with a year ago. Edmunds forecasts sales to fall 35.5% this month, capping an 11.8% decline in the first quarter. Cox Automotive, citing the volatility of the U.S. economy, decided not to provide a sales forecast. March sales are expected to be the lowest in the U.S. since January 2014 and the lowest first quarter since 2012, according to Edmunds. It's obviously a disappointment, said Jessica Caldwell, Executive Director of Industry Analysis at Edmunds. Auto sales will be soft in March, a month that is typically the big volume month in the first quarter. Automakers are scheduled to report first quarter vehicle sales on Wednesday. They are expected to decline across the board for every major automaker, according to Edmunds. Some automakers and dealers are attempting to push online sales to supplement lower showroom traffic. General Motors has been one of the leaders in offering online vehicle sales tools through its Shop, Click, Drive purchasing process. The online program allows much, if not all, of the sales process to be done online. Customers still may need to physically sign some paperwork depending on the state laws, but the vehicle can be delivered to a customer's home. Shop, Click, Drive launched in 2013. However, the program has never accounted for substantial sales, as it was viewed by some dealers as a threat to their business. That sentiment is changing amid the COVID-19 pandemic, according to Mike Bauscher, owner of Georgia-based Carl Black Automotive Group and 4 GM-franchised new car dealerships. It has taken on great importance recently, he said. There's a lot of good going to come out of this, forcing the network to get into the 21st century overnight and learn how to do more online sales. Everybody's being forced into this. Porsche announced earlier this month additional incentives for dealers to join a digital sales pilot that the company launched last fall. The program, Porsche says, allows customers to complete the majority of the car buying experience online with one short visit to the dealership for final signatures. In other attempts to spur sales, many automakers are offering special financing options and deferred payments. Both GM and Fiat Chrysler are offering well-qualified new car buyers 0% financing for 84 months and deferred payments of 90 days. Ford Motor is offering up to 3 months of deferred payment, and the company will pay for 3 additional months, allowing 6 months of payment assistance. Honda, Nissan, and others are also offering deferred payments options to well-qualified customers who purchase select new vehicles. Such deals, according to Caldwell, should help generate some sales, but they won't be enough to keep sales in the black. They're doing what they can, she said. There are some people that do need to buy cars. I think after this is all said and done, we'll probably see a lot of deals as well as automakers try to get back to normal sales and production levels. Businesses, of course, large and small, are being affected by the coronavirus, and auto sales are no exception. Neither is the airline industry. Of course, people are not flying. We're on mandatory stay-at-home orders, and I know personally when I think of germs, I think of the enclosed cabin of an airplane where everything is all recycled. I mean, people who are germophobic are freaked out by planes anyway, so I can only imagine people definitely not wanting to fly today. So this is actually about JetBlue, who is based in New York. The coronavirus is hitting JetBlue Airways very close to home. The New York-based carrier is cutting its roughly 200 daily flights in the metropolitan area by 80% to 40 a day, the company told employees in a memo that was reviewed by CNBC. The move comes after the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention on Saturday urged residents of New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut to refrain from non-essential domestic travel for 14 days. JetBlue did not immediately respond to a request for comment. Spirit Airlines on Monday said it would suspend operations at 5 airports in 3 states, including New York's LaGuardia, Newark, and Hartford, through at least May 4th because of the CDC warning. In addition to the cuts, JetBlue is, quote, capping flight loads to ensure social distancing on board, according to Ed Backler, the airline's vice president of in-flight experience, who wrote this to his employees over the weekend. The airline last week said it was reducing its network to just essential flights and has said it would reduce flights by about 40% in April and May, but it has been canceling service on a rolling basis as demand craters. Airlines have been cutting flights throughout their networks after demand plunged for air travel at a record rate. We're going to go ahead at this point and take our second break of the podcast, but when we come back, we'll be talking about some other airlines and what they are doing during this pandemic. So stay tuned. You're listening to the GSMC Business News Podcast, and I'll be right back. Do you work in the world of marketing and advertising? Are you a media buyer or the owner of an agency? Have you been looking for a podcast to help stay on top of all the goings on of those worlds? The GSMC Marketing News Podcast is dedicated to keeping you up to date on all things concerning marketing and advertising. Get the latest marketing news, from what major businesses have planned for the coming year to the newest trends in advertising, from podcasts, digital and streaming, to the old standbys of radio, television, and billboards. The GSMC Marketing News Podcast has you covered, whether you're a marketing agent or a business trying to expand your brand. Welcome back to the GSMC Business News Podcast. We are talking about the effect the coronavirus pandemic is having on airlines. We've spoken so far about JetBlue and Spirit. American Airlines will cut its April schedule by around 60% and plans to make even deeper reductions in May. The carrier's peak weekday departures from LaGuardia Airport, for example, last April totaled around 170 flights, but that number is set to drop to around 65 flights next month. Southwest Airlines on Tuesday announced it would cut its schedule from May 3rd through June 5th by about 40% to around 2,000 daily flights. Many of the cancellations will include flights before 7 a.m. and after 8 p.m. Southwest said the overall demand for travel remains fluid during this ongoing pandemic, and we continue to evaluate further reductions. So, everyone's struggling. Everyone's trying to figure things out, like I said, the best they can. And I think that, unfortunately, cutting flights is the best option, and people really shouldn't be flying unless it's extremely important and essential anyway. Our next story is specific to the Bay Area, and that is that the Bay Area has extended their shelter-in-place through May 3rd. They've not only extended it, but they have created new restrictions. According to the Mercury News, 6 Bay Area counties and the city of Berkeley announced new, stricter stay-at-home rules that force millions of residents in Santa Clara County, San Mateo County, Alameda County, Contra Costa County, Marin County, and San Francisco to shelter in place through May 3rd. That is beyond President Trump's recent announcement of end of April. The changes from earlier Bay Area lockdown rules include prohibiting most residential and commercial construction, closing dog parks and playgrounds, and banning play with a ball unless it involves only family or living unit members. It also includes a requirement. Okay, I just have to pause here. Living unit members. So, someone who lives in your apartment, in your house, in your condo with you. But living unit members just made me think of, okay, you're not allowed to play it with people who are not living. Okay, so I'm sorry, that's really irreverent, but I'm just, yeah. Well, you shouldn't probably be playing with I guess you could play with ghosts. Sure, why not? Sorry. It also includes a requirement that essential businesses enact tighter new social distancing and other rules for workers and customers, including banning the use of reusable bags by Friday, April 3rd. You can read the entire orders for the specific counties online. The one for Santa Clara County was included in the article, and the other counties have followed similar patterns. If I were to read the entire thing on this podcast, it would be a much, much, much longer podcast. It is a very long mandate. So if you want to read the full text of that, you can find that online. And as I said, this particular article was from the Mercury News. One last story for our time tonight. And that is that a Texas mom and pop business is flooded with orders for helmet ventilators amid the coronavirus crisis. C-Long Medical Systems has drawn huge interest from hospitals and foreign countries seeking alternatives in treating COVID-19 patients and amid a ventilator shortage. This is from NBCnews.com. And it really is a helmet ventilator. It kind of looks a bit like it almost looks, it's a clear helmet. I can't, there's many things that it looks like, but you should Google it and see what it looks like. 1 month ago, Chris Austin was running a little-known mom-and-pop business in Texas that fielded a few dozen orders a week for his helmet-style ventilation devices. He had 5 employees and a handful of volunteers from the family's church who would pitch in at the workshop behind their home in the small town of Waxahachie. Then the coronavirus epidemic hit. Austin's company, C-Long, that's SEA-Long, L-O-N-G, C-Long Medical Systems, Inc., is getting thousands of orders every day from America's top hospitals to countries as far-flung as the United Arab Emirates. Researchers say the device, which costs less than $200, could help hospitals free up ventilators for only the most critically ill coronavirus patients. Overwhelmed doesn't scratch the surface, Austin told NBC News. The demand for the C-Long helmet underscores the dire shortage of ventilators in the U.S. and around the globe, fueled by a surge in hospital patients suffering from COVID-19. In the last few weeks, hospitals have been flooded with patients experiencing respiratory problems so severe they need the help of a machine to help them breathe. Governors have made impassioned pleas for more equipment. Companies like General Motors and Ford have redesigned their assembly lines to produce the life-saving devices, and hospital executives are scrambling to snap up any equipment that might help ease the escalating crisis playing out inside their facilities. The C-Long device doesn't look like the part of a life-saving medical device. It doesn't look the part of a life-saving medical device. Yet, see, it resembles a crude spacesuit helmet with a transparent hood sealed at the neck. I just keep thinking of the helmets that you'd see on Scooby-Doo where they are doing scuba diving. That's just what it looks like to me. Except it's not round; it's more oblong, kind of. So it has a transparent hood sealed at the neck and 2 tubes extending from its base. The helmet was originally designed to supply oxygen to patients receiving treatment in hyperbaric chambers. But doctors in Italy, where a version of the helmet has long been used to treat people experiencing breathing problems, found it to be effective in helping some COVID-19 patients. Dr. Bhakti Patel, who has been studying the devices for 4 years, said they hold promise as an early intervention that could spare respiratory patients the need to be put on more traditional and costly and invasive ventilators. He said, "I would love for there to be a silver bullet for this pandemic." He is a pulmonologist at the University of Chicago. He said, "My best hope is that the way it changes the game is that maybe it shaves off the number of patients who need a ventilator, even if it's 1 out of 3 or 1 out of 5. If that is the case," he said, "that would be a game changer when we're seeing this tidal wave of patients who need a ventilator." Other companies do make similar ventilator helmets, but C-Long's is the only helmet available in the U.S. that meets requirements of the Food and Drug Administration and has been validated in a clinical study for acute respiratory syndrome. No studies have yet been done, however, examining the effectiveness of the devices in treating COVID-19 patients. Austin's team has been working around the clock for the past several weeks. The workforce has at least doubled to more than 10 people, Austin said, and volunteers have been showing up in droves. "We have people showing up that we don't even know that say, 'We're here to help. What can we do?' They don't ask for anything. They don't expect anything. They just say, 'Whatever you want me to do, we'll do it.' It just about brings tears to my eyes," he added. The attention has led to some other acts of extraordinary generosity. Austin said he recently got a surprised call from Virgin Galactic CEO George Whitesides offering to help him produce more devices. According to Austin, Whiteside said, "Chris, I saw what you do and we want to help, whatever it takes." Austin told him he needed more machines to manufacture the devices, but didn't have the cash to pay for them. Later that day, Austin got a call from his New Jersey-based supplier. "Somebody just paid your bill," Austin said he was told. "They'll be shipping tomorrow." With the 4 additional machines, Sealong expects to produce thousands of helmets a week. The goal is to produce 50,000 per week. This is the classic sort of American story, Dr. Patel said. It's the little engine that could. So there are good things that are happening. The article ends with Austin saying, "This probably sounds sappy, but we think of what if that was our son or daughter or grandfather sitting there in that bed gasping for air, and we have to explain to him, 'I'm sorry, we don't have anything for you.'" There are good things happening in the world, folks. There's a lot of stress. There's a lot of scariness. There is a lot of concern, and that is all normal and understandable. But there are also good things that are happening in the world. And so make sure you seek out those stories as well. Stay informed, stay on top of the facts, but seek out the good as well. Thank you so much for joining me for this episode of the GSMC Business News Podcast. Join me again on Thursday for another episode. In the meantime, stay safe, stay home. Thanks. You've been listening to the GSMC Business News Podcast, part of the GSMC Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type GSMC into your favorite podcast app to find all of the shows from the GSMC Podcast Network. From movies to music, from sports to entertainment, from business news to weird news. Please subscribe to the podcast and follow us on Twitter and Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's podcast.